Come on, Livingston, we're gonna go on and on and on. Together we can make it. We're gonna go on and on and on. Come on, Livingston.
Knocks it through. Mullen bursting into the box. Josh Mullen.
Together we can make it.
Mullen's ball across. It's turned in. It's Pittman who's got it. Livingston leads.
Road is long.
Can they get the ball back in? O'Brien.
Lead! And Livingston have the lead.
Man, score.
If we march together,
The full-time whistle blows and David Hayes celebrates. And the Livingston fans join in exultation.
come on, Livingston.
Livingston have the lead against Rangers, and they are certainly rising to a few occasions on their return to the top flight in Scotland.
Hello and welcome back to TalkLivi, the podcast dedicated to everything Livingston Football Club and Scottish football. My name's Andy, and today I'm joined by Angus. Angus, how are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. A lot better considering how the game went, but we'll get onto that later on.
And I'm also joined by Ewan. Ewan, a good day and not a bad week.
Yeah, not too bad. Could have been worse for the national team, I suppose. And obviously Livi making it to the next round of the Cup, so can't complain too much.
Obviously, Callum's unavailable this week. We're actually recording straight after the game, so he'll still be doing press at the moment. But you can listen to this episode and all their other episodes on your preferred podcast streaming site. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube, plus loads more. So all you need to do is search TalkLivi to find us. Follow us and subscribe if you can, so you don't miss another episode. It's been a busy week of international football. We look back at the 3 Scotland games and discuss if there was enough positives to take from them. Next up, we look at the Scottish Cup tie with Raith Rovers. Extra time it was, but we managed to get there in the end. And finally, we look ahead to our first fixture post-split against Celtic at Parkhead.
It was a busy week for international football, with World Cup qualifiers taking centre stage. Scotland played 3 games and picked up 5 points. Draws against Austria and Israel, which was followed by a convincing 4-0 win over the Faroe Islands. So lads, were we happy with the international break?
For me, it could have been a lot worse, but it also could have been better. I think the Austria game, I think we've let 2 points slip away from us. I think we did enough to win the game. Took us a wee bit of time to get into that game, but Christie had a really good chance first half, and then second half, I think Austria have scored against the run of play. I think David Marshall has to do better for the opener. But despite the eyebrows being raised at Grant Hanley even being in the squad from certain quarters, Andrew Semple, he popped up with the equaliser. And again, I think we were on the front foot. We were also denied a stonewall penalty prior to that with Christie. I think McFadden hits the nail on the head in that game. The Austria goal that was disallowed. How the referee spots that, pushing the back on Tierney, but doesn't spot Christie being manhandled to the ground in the box, is beyond me. But second goal, I mean, I'll give credit to the Austrian boy. It's an incredible header, but I think McGregor, for me, has to close the cross initially a little bit better. But then it's a bit of magic from McGinn. I'm not going to lie, I wasn't 100% sure whether to celebrate or not, because I thought he might have been offside, but he was clearly on, and it's a terrific overhead kick to get what I thought was the minimum we deserved from the game, which was a point. But I think to think that Austria are ranked 23rd in the world, I think it's a wee bit false. I think they're not as good a side as maybe made out on paper. The Israel game, we all kind of thought this was the banana skin, and first half, I thought we sat in too much and we showed them a bit too much respect. I think over the previous games we've had against them, I think we've realised how difficult a side they can be, and I think we showed them a bit too much respect. And allowed them to settle into the game. And the goal again, I'll say I think Marshall needs to do better. He's got two hands to it. It's not like he's unsighted. But in fairness to Clark, he's made a change at half time. And I think we look much better. I thought we pressed the ball higher up the pitch, and that's how the goal comes about. Christie wins the ball on the halfway line, and Adams has rolled it into Fraser, and Fraser's taken the goal brilliantly. And I think we were the better side second half, and I think a draw was probably a fair result. But again, I think we maybe approached the game a wee bit too negatively in the first half, and then the Faroe Islands game, I think it was comfortable as you can get, really. I don't think we had to really get out of second gear in that one. I think we kind of meandered through the first half a little bit, and once we got the second, I think, you know, the pressure was off and it started to show. We started opening it up quite a lot. But I said 7 points, but the way the groups worked out, I think Denmark are already kind of 4 points clear. If we can finish second, it is a playoff. So the next set of fixtures in September for the World Cup, I think, are going to be vital, because we need to go away to Denmark and away to Austria. So I think that could really make or break the group for us.
Yeah, to pick up on what you just said, Ewan, I think we all sat here a couple of weeks ago and said that 6 points minimum. We were looking for 7. We've only picked up 5. Unfortunately, again, it's games like Austria dropping points, Israel dropping points that make us fail to qualify from qualifying groups every time. And as much as it's a tight group and there's a muchness between the teams, other than Denmark, who look like they're a long way ahead of everybody else, I still feel like we're probably a point short of where we needed to be from these 3 fixtures. Not to say that there wasn't positives. I thought we looked okay in spells in games. We totally controlled the Faroe game, but that was to be expected. I agree with you, and I think Israel, it's almost a carbon copy of the games previously against them, where I feel like we've showed them too much respect, and we've done exactly the same in this one. And same for the game against Austria. We are a better team than what we showed that night. I think that is about what to expect for Austria, and I think if we'd showed the same sort of composure in front of goal that we had the opportunities to do, we could have taken Austria, and we would have been sitting here really pleased with our sort of fortnight's work for the national team. But I'm sitting here with a tinge of regret. I feel like we're at least a point short of where we need to be. But as I say, there was positives to take. I thought Shea Adams, I spoke at great length about him, how I thought he would be a good addition, and I think he's proved that he's miles ahead of anybody that we've got up front as an option. I would like to see Dykes and Adams playing together a little bit more. I think there was glimpses of a good partnership forming there against the Faroe Islands. I know it was only against the Faroe Islands, but I think there was glimpses that could be a fruitful partnership up front. And I agree with you, and I think, as much as I didn't criticise, I was just slightly surprised that Hanley came straight into the starting 11. I think he done himself justice. He done a good job there, and he's probably played his way into the team going forward, I think. But yeah, overall for me, just a tinge of disappointment. I feel like we're just a point or two short from those 3 games.
That is quite interesting that we've played 3 games here unbeaten, and we're still feeling this kind of this slight negativity towards it. It is very rare that Scotland starts off a campaign going unbeaten essentially within the first 3 matches, but yeah, share very similar values to you guys on those sort of games. The Austria one, I'm a wee bit more lenient on, because I do think that they do have players who I think they'll possibly be thinking the exact same thing. They'll be looking at that game and being like, oh, that was there for the taking. We could have put a couple more past us. And I think if they had a couple of more key players, like say David Alaba, if he stepped up a wee bit more, they could have really troubled us or whatnot. The Israel one, that's the one that is the real kicker, because as Andy said, we've showed them far too much respect, and Israel, they're decent on the ball. They do like to take chances, like to play it from the back, they like to play football the correct way, if you will. But they're not that great where we have to be, everybody camping on the 18-yard box, allowing them to run into our own half at free will, basically doing whatever they like. So, yeah, extremely disappointing in that kind of manner, because it's always these kind of games that ends up costing Scotland. I mean, you look back at that, the Euro 2008 one, for example, like the games against like Georgia and that. It's always these games away from home against the slightly like kind of like weaker sides that really kind of cost us in these moments. And my worst kind of fear from this is we go out and we have a good showing against Denmark, have a good show against Austria, but then it all comes back to this slip up against Israel yet again, and perhaps even maybe a future one, because that's what Steve Clarke played them 3 or 4 times now, and he's failed to beat them other than a penalty shootout. So perhaps that is a little bit concerning, but it's trying not to be like overly critical. There were positive aspects of it. Obviously, Che Adams as well coming in as being good. Ryan Fraser as well, for somebody who's had a pretty poor season, I would say, in the English Premiership, in the English Premier League even. I thought he was full of energy and buzzing up and down the wing. And of course as well, Kieran Tierney on the left-hand side continues to impress all the time. I think Kieran Tierney is an absolute gem for us, and not saying that Arsenal aren't a big club, but Kieran Tierney could literally go to the next level from that. He could play for any club in the world. I feel he is that special of a talent, which obviously that kind of leads on to the Robertson-Tierney kind of debate. You guys think that we should be persistent with the kind of 3-5-2 that allows them both to play, or do you think we should be kind of either sacrificing one of them in a 4 at the back, or playing Tierney as a left centre-half with just Robertson as a natural left-back?
I've been quite vocal about the whole Tierney-Robertson debate, and I think the reason why Tierney's the one that always gets shifted is, for me, he's the better all-round footballer. I think he's more comfortable getting moved about. You go back to when Strachan was manager to accommodate him, he played Tierney as a right-back. You can go years and years ago when it was McGrain and Jardine, who were 2 right-backs. One of them had to go and play left-back. So that kind of scenario in that instance. But Tierney's played left centre-back, and a 3 for Arsenal regularly at the start of the season. When we shifted to a 4 against Israel as well, he went and played as a 2 with Hanley and was very comfortable. But you saw, for me, I think Robertson feels the pressure of playing for Scotland, and I think it shows at times when he plays whilst Tierney, at the end of the day, Tierney was playing left centre-back and was the biggest threat on the park against the Pharaohs, and quite regularly has been getting round the outside of Robertson, but it shows you it can work. I mean, just to pick up on what you said about Israel and showing them a wee bit too much respect, I think if you go back to even the games under Art McLeish, we sat in against them, and I know Israel are ranked, I think, quite low in the rankings, but at international level, if you go and sit off any team, you're going to make them look good. And I think that was the case against Israel. We know at the end of the day, they've got players that are playing in some of the top European leagues and things like that. They're no mugs. So if you're going to go and sit off them, they're going to end up causing you problems. And that's what happened. While second half in that game, we tweaked the shape, went to kind of 4-2-3-1, and we pressed them higher up the park, and we started getting joy, and we started picking them off a little bit more. Agree with you. I was really impressed with Ryan Fraser, both as he kind of played off at Adams in Israel, and then when he went out wide, and wasn't quite as impressed with him against the Pharaohs playing as a wing back. I was more eager for him to try and take his man on, but he did chip in with a goal, a header for someone that's about 3'4", which is quite impressive. I was really impressed with Ryan Christie against Austria. I thought he was the best player in the park by a country mile against Austria. And then, as you say, Tierney was excellent against the Faroe Islands. 3 assists from centre-back. He's quite impressive. And McGinn, obviously, chipping in with a couple of goals, and he's starting to look like a bit of a talisman for Steve Clarke. 9 goals since Steve Clarke's got the job. So, as I say, there are plenty of positives, but I agree I think we let Austria off the hook, and I think we didn't. Had we played the whole game as we did the second half in Israel, I think we would have picked them off as well and picked up more points.
On the Tierney-Robertson debate, Angus, I think the 3 at the back almost allows a little bit of freedom for Tierney in a way for me. especially against the I say lesser sides, as Ewan pointed out. There's not many lesser sides at international football these days, but it allows Tierney to get up and down the park without sacrificing that defensive stability. You're still left with your two centre backs there. Robertson can drop a bit deeper. What I would say as well is, and I've been arguably his biggest critic in the country, is O'Donnell. I thought had a very good international campaign so far in the 3 games. I think he's done himself no harm. I still don't think he's of quality to be in the team, but I can't argue with his performances, and he deserves to be there on the performances. But yeah, on obviously the Tierney Robertson, I also agree. I think Robertson wears his heart on his sleeve a little bit. He needs to take his club sort of football. I know it's not gone great this season for him at Liverpool, but I think he needs to play the way he does for Scotland as he does at Liverpool. It's a similar style. We hope to see that at Scotland. We want to see him running up and down the wings and putting good balls in the box. I think his delivery's been very poor for Scotland, if to be honest with you. And Tierney's outshone him every time for me. But as I say, that the 3 at the back, I think, allows that little bit of freedom for Tierney to step out and give that bit of attack and threat, and he showed that in these 3 games so far for me. The other question I'll put to you is, before we move on, because we don't want to sit and talk about Scotland all day as much as we enjoy it. Marshall, you mentioned that you in a couple of errors that cost us goals. He's rightfully seen as a legend in Scotland for his penalty saves in the playoffs to get us to the Euros. But should there be questions being asked over that position now, or is that still his at the moment?
Have to see how it goes, essentially, because did Marshall is he not just like straight off the back of an injury for Derby? I think he's played perhaps in like the last month or so. So maybe that could have been better managed in this recent kind of internationals. We should have played maybe Gordon instead, as the kind of informed keeper who has been mainly playing. I guess you just kind of got to see how the rest of the season goes, essentially, because you don't really want to be like shifting things up too much. But yeah, if a keeper's out of form, then yeah, play somebody who is better. The only issue that we kind of have is it's Craig Gordon's playing in the Scottish Championship for Hearts, who've got 4 games left now, is it? How much football is he actually going to be playing to keep himself up to match fitness, match sharpness as well? John McLaughlin's the 3rd choice goalkeeper. When was the last time he played for Rangers? Liam Kelly started playing for Motherwell. He's had a couple of mistakes. Well, he had a mistake against Kilmarnock that might have put him down the pecking order again. McCrory at us is still quite a wee while away from reaching that level, I would say, as well. Other than that, you're talking Xander Clark and stuff. So I think you will end up seeing Marshall retain that position quite comfortably, in all honesty, just because of the fact that he is going to be playing the most kind of football and hopefully will return to that similar level of form again.
Quick question then, going on that. Should Steve Clark be picking up the phone and asking Mr. McGregor at Rangers if he'd be interested in coming back out of retirement? Is that something we should look at?
Absolutely. Yeah, we don't have any keeper who's playing that well. Is there any keeper, actually, any British keeper playing as well as Al McGregor has this season? And that doesn't just go for in domestic competitions, but in Europe as well. I would fully back that decision. I know a lot of people would get kind of turned away from that because of, obviously, you don't like players withdrawing themselves for like contention and then coming back, and it would kind of strike you as being, he's back for like the European Championships and that's it. But he's just that good, though, isn't he?
I think if you had every goalkeeper available, we've been quite blessed over the last 10 to 15 years with the likes of Gordon, McGregor and Marshall all playing at a really, really high level. I think there's a lot of international teams who would struggle to get 3 goalkeepers as good as that and playing at the level that they were. But for me, Marshall, probably a wee bit rusty, having come off the back of an injury. And for me, he's a god. So he should be playing. And yes, if you gave me the choice of the goalkeepers, if McGregor was available, he'd be my first choice based on his form at Rangers. But for me, Marshall's still the first choice out of the ones that are available. McGregor's retired for a reason. He wanted to make himself more available for club football, so that was his decision. So for me, Marshall's still the number one, and he's, at the end of the day, he's played a massive part in getting us to a major tournament. So I think I would stick by him. I get a couple of goals which he'll know himself he could have done better for, but at the end of the day, how many times has he saved us? So I would still have him as the number one choice. It was back to domestic football on Saturday as we faced a tricky-looking Scottish Cup tie against Championship side Raith Rovers. 1-1 at full time, but a goal from Matty Poplatnik in the second half of extra time was enough to seal our place in round 4. It was quite a difficult afternoon, wasn't it, guys?
Yeah, it's one that we definitely made a lot more hard work out of than we probably needed to in the end. First of all, Raith Rovers were very good for the first half, I would say. I think you could really see how well organised and how much they actually want to get the ball down and play it. They have quite an unusual kind of formation, more of like a kind of a diamond in the middle of the park that allows them to still have 2 strikers up top. But yeah, they were doing all the kind of right stuff, and yeah, they probably could have they probably could have taken the lead earlier. They had a good couple of chances that they were getting in behind goal. I mean, the first minute of the game, they got in behind their defence, and I think from that moment we knew straight away that we were going to be in for a game. We also kind of pressed a wee bit and were unlucky with a header being headed off the line. But then obviously they took the lead for a free kick, which of course there's going to be a lot of people in the Livi forum talking about this, but I'll have to slightly side on them this time. I do think McCrory should be doing better from this free kick. I don't think it's placed that well into like the bottom corner that he shouldn't be reaching it or move or shuffling himself across to get there. Of course, there's going to be people who will take that way overboard and way over the top, but it was a poor goal to concede for us. And the most kind of disappointing thing for me was that, yeah, again, we went a goal down and it didn't really seem to really kickstart us. We still kind of played the same kind of pedestrian sideway football. It was very, very slow, and it was kind of reverting back to the kind of ways that we've been expecting us to play recently, where it's all kind of down the one side, and if it isn't coming from Nicky Devlin or Sibbald on the right-hand side, we're not creating anything. And that was what was most worrying for me, that we weren't really going to get back into it because it was so predictable in many ways. I think Kai Kennedy on the left wing, I think he was snuffing out Devlin on the right-hand side quite a few times, and it wasn't until he went off that I think we started to get more joy down there as Devlin had that more freedom to go in. I don't know if maybe Sibbald being that kind of inverted kind of player didn't help in that matter, but we did luckily get an equaliser. Josh Millen came on for Forest. I do want to see those kind of players playing together more so, but Mullen puts in the cross, the corner, Guthrie heads back, and Fitzwater does well to get a goal. And in all honesty, I think a set piece was the only way that we were going to penetrate them, as we didn't really look to be having that much of a great final product going through. We were trying to get down the sides, but the big defenders was it Benedictus and Williamson, is that his name?
Ian Davidson.
That's what it is. Aye, they two were just heading, kicking everything that moved, and if it didn't move, they were kicking it in case it moved later. They were absolutely solid at the back, and then I don't think anybody could have any complaints that it went into extra time. You could very clearly see though that Raith were beginning to tire, and I think that may have been the game plans from us, was to just basically kind of ride the game out. The opportunity will come because they will tire out. They've played a lot of games recently. They played just like on Tuesday night or something like that. And thankfully, as the game went on, we continued to press and create chances, and we luckily got that goal. Devlin, as we mentioned just there, bombing down the right-hand side, yet again, as we've seen so often this season, and Poplatnik gets the winner. So, yeah, very, very chuffed for the result. The performance, probably not so much, but Raith for a decent side. But if we've kind of got aspirations of doing like kind of being that kind of top 6 side playing against a team in the Championship, I would have expected a little bit more from us. But I guess at the end of the day, we're into the next round.
Yeah, no, I think for 70 minutes of the game, we were the better team. For me, that's including the extra time. I thought the first half I was very impressed with Raith Rovers. I wasn't expecting an easy game at all. I watched their game midweek against Dunfermline and they were excellent, to be honest. They passed the ball about really, really sharp and really well and tore Dunfermline apart. And obviously, we know how hard we've had it over against Dunfermline over the years. So Dunfermline's a decent side and Raith Rovers passed them off the pitch. And for the first 45 minutes, I felt they'd done exactly the same to us. They got past our press relatively easy. Maybe once or twice they got caught. But generally they got through our press quite well, and really brave football. Not really football I'm expecting for a John McGlynn side, to be honest. But it was really really brave, and to be fair, it was good to watch at times for Raith Rovers. But I felt we got a grip of the game in the second half. I felt that the slight tweaks to the system that we made helped us, and as you say, the amount of games that Raith Rovers have played recently, that little breaks probably helped us. And I thought, as I say, we took control of the game, and I thought the entire second half were the better team, especially after we scored. And then for the entirety of extra time, I personally felt it was a matter of time before we were scoring. I didn't see Raith Rovers getting another goal. I thought we totally bossed them in extra time and most of the second half. And I think overall in the 120 minutes, we edged the game, and I felt we deserved to win the game. And you know what, we're in the next round, and that's what cup football's all about. We're there, we're in the draw, and no one will look back at this and go, well, the Premiership team got taken the extra time. They look at it and say, Livingston are in the next round, and to me, that's all that matters.
Yeah, kind of echo that, Andy. Cup football, it's about the scoreline at the end of the day. Performances aren't really important. I think I agree with you. I thought they passed the ball about really well. I thought they did that last year in the cup tie. It's roughly the same stage of the cup as well. And I think there was a lot of similarities between the two games for large spells. I think they looked quite confident, and let's be honest, they're second in the Championship for a reason. They're playing really well this year. As you say, they knocked the ball about well. You could see we were trying to put pressure on them when they were knocking the ball about at the back, but they got by our press a couple of times, and you know that probably disheartens us a little bit. You know, you're putting in that effort and you're not getting the reward of it. And I think they deservedly went in front, albeit I think I'm one of Robbie's biggest defenders. He has to do better for that goal. I think he's offered far too much that side of the goal up to Vaughan, but at the end of the day, he's put it over the wall and into the back of the net. But second half, I think we dominated the ball, and I think we just needed a break, a bit like the cup tie last year where we got a penalty to get level. We dominated the ball, but they're very well organised. That's an aspect I always kind of come to expect of a John McGlynn team, is that they're very well organised and difficult to break down, and that was the case. But you know, we got the goal, good delivery by Joss, knocked down by Guthers, and Fitzwater's kind of slammed it into the back of the net. And as you say, I think from there on, we looked the only team kind of going on to win the tie. I think because we got level, it opened the game up a little bit, and we were starting to get in behind them a wee bit more. Once we got the level, I think there was a few instances where Hope just cut out 2 or 3 passes, and he was playing a diagonal over the right hand side and getting in behind quite a lot. It was proving quite effective, and you know, we started creating a lot more openings, and I think, as you say, extra time, I think we breezed through extra time, to be honest. I think it showed the amount of games that they've had recently, and Nicky doing what Nicky does, bombing down that right hand side, and he's laid it on a plate for Poplatnik to tap in, which I'm sure will do him the world of good as well, getting in on the goals. So I think it was always going to be a really tricky cup tie. We saw that last year, and they've moved up a division now, and they're flying in that league as well, looking absolute dead set for the playoffs. So you know, it was always going to be a tricky afternoon, but we've came through unscathed. We're in the hat for the next round, and hopefully we can get a favourable tie.
I tell you what, I wouldn't want to be the team at the bottom of the Premiership in the playoffs looking to face potentially Raith Rovers, because I think the teams down the bottom will be concerned with Raith Rovers. I think they are that good, and they have got the potential to get promoted this season, and I think that would be up there with our achievement of back-to-back promotions. If they manage to do that, there's certainly a couple of players that are available in the summer that I'd be potentially looking at. I think the boy, is it Regan Hendry? I think he's an excellent prospect. I think there'll be teams better than us that will be looking at him, but I'd be disappointed if we didn't ask the question. I think he's got real potential to go on and be a really top player and certainly in the Scottish Premiership and maybe even down south. But I really rate Raith Rovers, and I think that's as much as we've won the game in extra time, I think that's a big win for us. And obviously we're in the next round, and that's the most important thing.
We also got to see a debut. I was starting to think that he was going to become the David Luongo of this season, which was Djibril Diani. He's a big boy, isn't he?
Aye, he looks an absolute unit. It looks quite kind of calm and composed on the ball and that as well. But yeah, there's not really much more to go on than the fact that you just say he's an absolute tank, essentially. Hopefully we can see him play a wee bit more in these upcoming games. Talking about tests for him, like he's going to have to play the 5 other best teams in the league, essentially. So yeah, it'll be good to see what he's like in these kind of fixtures. And yeah, not many bigger ties than the one that we have this weekend, and maybe he'll feature then. But yeah, very good to see him. Finally, good to get that pesky paperwork over the line, and we can kind of properly start looking forward to more new players coming in. Obviously, kind of talks of pre-contracts for certain players coming up in that as well. Obviously, Diani is somebody who Davies talked about for potentially for next season. So yeah, hopefully he can impress us and yeah, be a very worthwhile addition to the team.
Pesky Brexit, eh?
There is no way that lad's 6'1". He must be at least 7 foot. He looks taller than Callum Brown. And by the way, that is saying something.
He's an absolute unit, and I can see what Davey's looking at. Obviously, the boy is at Oberlai. That's at Queen of the South. We've obviously been looking at him. Davey was talking him up quite a lot in his presser. The boy Hendry you spoke about, he was talking him up as well quite a bit. But I think you can see Davies, and I mentioned it a few weeks ago on the podcast. I don't think we've been particularly good at set pieces this season, defending them or kind of scoring from them. So I think he's trying to add a little bit of aerial threat. And I think the boy Diani certainly fits that bill. I'm pretty sure nobody would want to be picking him up in the 18-yard box for sure.
No, definitely. Just obviously looking ahead, that is us now in the next round of the Cup. There's quite a few teams that would fancy our chances against a few sort of lower league teams through the likes of Stranraer, Morton. You've got Forfar there, Montrose, Hearts aren't in it. They seem to have been knocked out in the don't know who by. But there's opportunities there to have another good run in this cup, isn't there? Obviously, we had a great run in the League Cup and got all the way to the final. We're obviously secured in the top 6 now. There is quite a bit to play for, obviously, but should we be targeting the Scottish Cup now as our main focal point for the rest of the season?
Not as a main focal point. Yeah, the league's still your bread and butter, and that's your best chance of European football. But just approach it as the next game. The next game's the most important one. Old cliche, but when it comes to the cup games, target them. I don't think we look too far ahead. I think Davey is very much of the mould of kind of the next game's the most important one, and I'm sure we'll view the cup like that as well. The Scottish Cup's been a really frustrating one as a Livi fan. I can't remember the last time we had a proper good cup run in it. Maybe going back to sort of 2004, 2005, when we got to quarterfinals, semi-finals round about then. So other than that, I think our record's been pretty stinking, to be honest. So it would be good to get a run in the Scottish Cup. And as you say, I think you get anything lower league in the next round, it would be a good way of kind of progressing in the cup, hopefully.
Yeah, it's still quite early stages in like the kind of rounds, isn't it? So we've kind of just got to take each game as it kind of comes. But yeah, there's plenty of kind of lower league teams. I mean, if you got Stranraer and Montrose, then you'd be absolutely buzzing with that kind of a tie in the next round. But yeah, to be fair, it would be the absolute most Livingston thing to do when the one season that fans can't get into stadiums that they would get to Hampden 3 times, possibly 4 times. So yeah, who knows what will happen. I will say that if we do play against teams of a similar ilk to Raith Rovers or better other teams in our league will need to play much better than we did today for the whole part, as other teams may punish us where Raith didn't manage to kill us off essentially. But yeah, hopefully we can go on a wee run. It would be good, as Ewan said. The Scottish Cup isn't something that's been very kind to us over the years, but yeah, fingers crossed, and let's make the best of it.
Next up, we're going to look ahead to our first post-split fixture. It's a game away to Celtic. It could have been an easier start, but here we are. Tough-looking game, obviously, especially in Glasgow. We're obviously facing Celtic for the third time in Glasgow this season. But it's almost a free hit, this one now, isn't it? You know, going to Celtic, they've got very little to play for. We can almost take this game to them. We've done it early in the season. Can we go and do it again?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, Celtic don't have a lot to play for. I think second place is pretty much wrapped up for them. They obviously can't catch Rangers, so they've not got a lot to play for. However, there's been a lot of talk during the week that Eddie Howe is incoming, so maybe there's a few players that might be playing for their future a little bit, which could add to their performance. But I don't think we've got anything to be scared of. The game we lost, I thought we were really unlucky not to nick a point from it earlier in the season, and then the 0-0, I think we let Celtic off the hook that day. I think we had plenty of chances to win the game. Obviously, there were circumstances surrounding that, but I think we did kind of let them off the hook a wee bit. Before, I would have been very daunted about going to Celtic Park, but this season I really don't see the fear factor. Obviously, the no fans aspect makes a big difference. You know, got 60,000 fans backing them, and let's be honest, they're not playing particularly well this year. So there's an opportunity there for us, I think, to go and get something on the board. As you say, it is a little bit of a free hit when you play either side of the Old Firm away from home. But I think where teams have got joy against Celtic is where they've had a wee bit of a go at them and kind of targeted their frailties at the back a little bit. Talked about our record at set pieces this season. I think Celtic have got a really poor record from conceding goals from set plays. So it might be the sort of game where you gamble on playing Josh Mullen for the delivery alone, try and exploit those weaknesses that Celtic have. And I mean, we saw it in the 2-each game recently. The marking was shocking for Kieran Brown's goal that put us 1-0 up, for example. So, as I say, I think it's a good opportunity for us. You know, I think this season is a season where you're not going to get many opportunities to go to Celtic Park and pick up points. And I think there's an opportunity, as I said, there for us on Saturday.
Yeah, Celtic Park this season is very much an anomaly because you would usually be going there and being like, let's put up like the barricades and like let's hope for the best. But yeah, looking at Celtic this season, there's no real reason to properly go there fearing for your lives. Essentially, yeah, they still have great players, but they aren't the same kind of beast that they are. And we've reached this kind of stage of the season where like we can risk taking a chance here. I would like to see us kind of go all out. I know that they have like the players who can punish us, but there is places that you can get out, and I think one of the interesting parts that you could get at Celtic is down the sides essentially. I don't think either left back Laxalt or Greg Taylor is that tremendous that if we have a combination of Josh Mullen and Nicky Devlin going down that side that we can cause them problems. On the other side as well, who really plays right wing for them? Christie's not going to do an awful lot of hard working back if we've got somebody kind of pushing them forward, and John Joe Kenny as well. I think he's a decent player, but he's not somebody we should be massively fearful of. And I think, as you mentioned, the set pieces in that, we've got to kind of get the balls into these areas to try and get something from them, and I think he can. Obviously we haven't played the best today, but it'll be a completely different test on Saturday, and it is a really just kind of a strange one because I'm trying not to get too ahead of myself because it's Celtic, but at the same time, it's this season Celtic. You can get joy against them. So I think it's a really interesting prospect that's coming up because, yeah, you just don't really know what Celtic side's going to show up essentially because the last game that they had there, they drew 1-1 with Rangers, and I think that they were positive, but you only have to look kind of prior to those games, like drawing with Dundee United and looking very toothless in all honesty. So as long as we go out there and we should give a good account of ourselves, that's all we can ask for. And yeah, hopefully we can pick up a point. And I don't really think that's out of the realm of possibility.
I think state the obvious, but I think first goal's going to be really important in this one. I think if Celtic get it, they might just relax a bit and play some decent stuff and just be too good for us. But I think if we get it, I think Celtic this season are a type of team that are easy to frustrate, and they've seemed like a very impatient team all season when they've went behind. In seasons prior, if they've gone behind, they've always found a way of getting back in the game. But this season, for one reason or another, they go behind in games or they don't take the lead early. They get a little bit impatient and they start going a little bit longer and they start taking more chances. And there's definitely an opportunity there for us to take advantage of that. Obviously, we spoke in previous episodes when we've played these games that we've got a pretty good record against Rangers and Celtic in the league. I think there was a stat on Sky Sports when we played Rangers that I think we were the third or fourth best team for taking points off these two sides since we got promoted. So I think it goes to show that we're capable of doing it. And as I said a wee bit earlier, Celtic have got very little to play for. I agree, Ewan, that the Eddie Howe subject might help them in a way. Depend on what happens this week. If he's announced or a manager's announced, whatever happens there, he might be sitting in the stand and they might be out to impress. But we can only obviously talk about what's here and now and what's in front of us. And I see there being an opportunity there for us. I really do. But we have to be at it. There's no doubt about it. We can't obviously turn up there and put in a performance like today. As much as I don't think it was terrible today, I think if we play that way against Celtic, they will be too good for us. We need to go there and play to the best of our ability and hope Celtic have an off day. That's the same whenever we come up against Rangers and Celtic away from home or even at home, and this is no difference. But there's a great opportunity there to take advantage and take at least another point off of Celtic, which would be a tremendous achievement this season. We've drawn with them twice already. Why not go and do it a third time, or even better, go and win the game there? That would be something else.
What sort of changes do you potentially see to the team? Or Davies played the same starting 11 last 3 games. Do you see him sticking or twisting?
I think in a game against Celtic away, I don't necessarily think it's a game for Jet, although Jet has kind of played himself into the team in recent weeks. I think in this kind of game, you do need somebody who is going to be a wee bit more agile and who is going to put a bit more pressure on them up the park. We got obviously a lot of joy early in the season when Tiffany played against them, and then obviously Robinson did so. And Jack Hamilton played the home game.
Yeah, it was Jack. Aye.
We have kind of opted for having somebody who is more mobile than Jet. I mean, out of the current striking options, I don't think you'll find anybody who is less mobile than Jet in that kind of role, to be honest. But yeah, I wouldn't be entirely surprised if I did see Poplatnik, especially coming off this goal today. I don't think Poplatnik was great today, but I think his kind of attributes may suit this kind of game a wee bit better. Somebody who can exploit spaces on that big, massive grass pitch at Celtic Park. So I wouldn't be too shocked to see that happen. Other than that, I'm not too sure. I think you could probably see Forrest and Mullen kind of switch. I wouldn't imagine Davey would play them 2 at once, no matter how much I would like to see that happen. But I think you're always going to have Sibbald, Holt, Bartley and Pittman in there as well. So it's probably a toss-up between Mullen and Forrest for that. And I'd probably see Mullen starting over just because that kind of deadly, that kind of threat from delivering set pieces and his crossing from open play as well. But other than that, I wouldn't really expect an awful lot more to be changed up.
I'm not convinced Poplatnik is any more mobile than Jet, personally. That's just my opinion.
Bombshell.
But I agree with you. I think we need someone with a bit more mobility up top. But unfortunately, we didn't have it. We've got Cabia. That's about the only other option for me. I think we've let Tiffany go out on loan, who's proven a big hit at Partick Thistle. We've obviously not got Jack Hamilton. So the only option to go with that for me is Cabby, and do I see him starting in this game? I really don't. So I can see Jet starting again in this one. I don't envisage there being many changes. I think I'm with you on the Mullen and Forrest one. I think that might be a straight swap. But other than that, unless he changes the shape totally and we go with a three at the back with wing backs, but I don't see there being major changes to the team. We're actually on a half decent run now, a couple of wins and a draw after going through a bad spell, and we've kind of stuck with the team that's been playing. So yeah, I don't see there being many changes, if any at all, for this one.
Yeah, I still think Poplatnik's a bit more mobile. I think he gets about the park a little bit more than Jet, personally. I think he's quite intelligent with his movement and stuff like that. Would I say he's rapid and quick? No, but I would still say he's a bit more mobile than Jet. By the way, if Jet listens, there's no disrespect to you. Davy's even said it about you. But I think that's one that kind of springs to mind, as you say, the Mullen one. I touched on it earlier. I think purely for Celtic's frailties at dead balls, I would bring Josh in for that alone. I think it just adds that little bit of quality and added little threat when we do get the opportunity from dead balls. Let's move on to predictions then. Angus, I think both me and you got 3 points today for the cup tie, did we not? Were you not 2-1 as well?
I say 2-0. So.
Oh well, I got 3 points then. I say. But
for getting the correct kind of win, not just the perfect score.
No, we're not having the after extra time malarkey. Absolutely not. Nah, I'm taking 3 points. Right, it was 2-1. So what are we thinking predictions wise? Andy, we'll start with you because let's just get you out of the way. You're no hope in this league anyway. So
I've kind of given up this season with this whole prediction malarkey. It's been a total waste of time for me. Do you know what? I'm going to go for 1-1. Let's do it. Let's go a point at Parkhead, 1-1.
And guess what we thinking?
Yeah, I'm going to share quite a similar kind of train of thought. I'm going to be positive. I don't think we'll win. I'm going to go for 0-0 though. Let's just go for another stalemate like the last time we were at Celtic Park.
I've got nothing to lose in the prediction league. I'm pretty sure if the goal difference was involved, that might be the only thing. So that could deny me the league title this year. I'm going to go for our first win at Celtic Park. I'm going to go 1-0 Livi and put the pressure on Aberdeen massively.
Wow. Well, there you have it. Ewan's predicting a win. Angus and I are draws. When was the last time Livi fans were this confident going to Celtic Park? I don't think we've ever been in this position before, but here we are, and hopefully we're right, and hopefully you're right, Ewan, by the fact that we're going to put a little bit more pressure on Aberdeen and start reeling them in for that 4th place.
I can't wait for that confidence to just disappear 5 minutes into the game Saturday. That's it for this week's episode of TalkLivi. Thanks again to every single one of you for tuning in week in and week out. If you can, we'd love to hear your feedback. Either leave us a review on iTunes or simply message us on Twitter, Facebook or Instagram.
As Angus said, we're on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Search TalkLivi to find us. You'll find all the links to our weekly episodes on there as well. You can also find all our episodes, including this one, on all good podcast streaming sites, including iTunes and Spotify. We're also on YouTube, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If none of those options suit you though, all you have to do is head over to our website, talklivipodcast.libsyn.com, where you'll find every single episode we have done over the last few years.
So that's it for this week. We took a little break last week. I think it was much needed. We'd done a lot of episodes over the last few weeks and months leading up to the cup final and after that. So it was a nice little break, but it's good to be back. And obviously we hope you enjoyed the podcast this week. We'll obviously be back next week with our usual ramblings. But for now, from Angus, from you and myself, and everyone at the official TalkLivi podcast, we hope you have a fantastic week.
Livingston, a love will never die. West Lothian is our battle cry. This is the place from which we hail. Livingston, oh Livingston, it's up to Ammonvale. Livingston, 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 oh Livingston, oh Livingston, we love it when you score. Livingston, oh Livingston, the Ammonville Lions roar. Livingston, oh Livingston, we realize our vision. Livingston, oh Livingston, into the Premier Division.